Okay, here we go. All right. Welcome to Reframing Anxiety. Marissa's here doing a double header with me. She just had her mastermind call. Okay, so reframing anxiety. Let me pull up my notes. So this topic came to me because probably because I've just been feeling a lot of anxiety recently. Um, I know some of the people around me have been dealing with a lot of anxiety, acute anxiety, chronic anxiety, all the fun kinds of anxiety, right? And so it felt important to me to address anxiety from like a truly holistic perspective. So, and the more different angles we can approach anxiety from, the greater our odds of healing it and healing it for good. So let me start by just kind of defining what anxiety is. And first off, saying that no two people's anxiety is alike. Everyone's anxiety is completely unique and completely different because it is this puzzle, we'll call it, of many, many, many different parts and many different root causes. And so, this need to approach anxiety from many different angles is really important because A, no one's anxiety is alike, and B, there are many, many different root causes. So, we have to look from many angles to really get to the roots of it. And we don't want to be just treating anxiety with a band-aid, slapping a band-aid on and just trying to like get through or turn it off. We have to be approaching it from a standpoint of the physical body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. So anxiety can range from mild, like a thing that pops up for you and you're like, ooh, I'm feeling anxious, like I've got a knot in my stomach, I feel my heart rate is up, my blood pressure is up. Anxiety can be like just going to the dentist, or anxiety can be so severe that you're stuck in your house or your bed, completely clenched up, shaking, panic attack, can't function, right? And some people sadly can live in that state for a lot of time. And for most people, there's something in the middle there who are dealing with anxiety that it's getting you frozen at sometimes. Um, but it's getting in the way of functioning in life optimally. And so we want to be obviously healing anxiety so that you can be functioning at your greatest capacity and doing your work on this planet. And I really and wholeheartedly believe that people who experience a lot of anxiety tend to be more sensitive types. They tend to be light workers, empaths, healers, torch bearers. I'm talking a lot about bearing the torch in this next 9-year cycle as we move into the year of the horse. So this is also a subject that's near and dear to my heart because those are who my clients are. A lot of times they don't know they are those things before they start working with me, and then I help them to understand that about themselves. So, anxiety is an activation of the nervous system, and the nervous system is our computer system, the most highly advanced computer system that exists on our planet. And it's constantly taking information in and putting information out and adjusting and tweaking every single chemical reaction in the body. And so, if we can shift from the Western medical model of anxiety that says anxiety means something's broken, something's flawed in you, you have a gene defect, you have um, a deficiency in neurotransmitters or a chemical imbalance, you have trauma, like you're too wounded or broken. Like, we're going to shift out of that anxiety means something is broken and we have to like fix it to anxiety is a message from this brilliant computer of your nervous system. Like, what we think we understand about the nervous system is like the old school, like DOS with the black screen and the green letters. Okay. Like, we're in computers 10,000 years from now, right, Kate? So, like, what we think we understand about it is nothing compared to how sophisticated this system is. So, if we can start to reframe the way we look at the nervous system as this wildly, incredibly intelligent part of us, then we can start to work with it instead of fighting against it. And ultimately, that's how we heal all our symptoms is by starting to work with them and understand them rather than just feeling like they're this broken thing we have to get rid of. Okay, so there's I see three primary root causes of anxiety. One is physical, the second is emotional, and the third is spiritual. So we're going to start with the physical because that's the most straightforward, and then we're going to get into the most abstract, but also kind of the most fun. Okay, so on a physical level, toxins, in particular heavy metals like mercury, lead, all of those heavy metals are the biggest driver of anxiety. And those metals get into our system from environmental toxins. We inherit them in the womb. They come in through all different exposures and they land in the brain. And when they're in the brain, they create heat. So when adrenaline and cortisol and stress hormones meet those metals, they give off these pangs of heat and they burn up neurotransmitters and they create all kinds of symptoms in the body, anxiety being one of them. So, you can have anxiety if you don't have metals in your brain, but if you have metals in your brain and stress or and trauma, it's going to be much more exacerbated. That's the kind of anxiety that you start dealing with on a daily basis where you're like, I don't even know where this is coming from. So, toxins, especially heavy metals, are a big root cause physically. Viral load is also a root cause. This is often from the Epstein-Barr virus, which most of us have at least one form of that virus, and even low levels of that virus create neurotoxins. So they're toxins, they're byproducts of the virus that get into our central nervous system, and they make us feel a little, yeah, all the time. They just feel yucky, icky. Um, I mentioned that the neurotransmitters get burned up when we have a lot of adrenaline in our system from stress, from trauma. Nutrient deficiencies are also going to lead to a lack of sufficient neurotransmitters. Most of us are born nutrient deficient. Our soils are nutrient deficient. So even if we're eating like well, I spent most of my 20s into my first half of my 30s eating well because I was a dietitian and I thought I knew what eating well meant, but I was not getting enough nutrients by any stretch of the imagination. And that was starting to catch up with me as I got into my mid 30s and I had my first baby. Um, so nutrient deficiencies are huge when we don't have enough minerals in particular for those neurotransmitters. A lack of sleep is a big trigger for anxiety because again, that's throwing off the whole adrenal hormonal system, and then that's creating a stressor, and then that's burning up more neurotransmitters, and then that's creating more anxiety. And any adrenal level of adrenal fatigue. So dare I say, everyone has some level of adrenal fatigue because of the speed at which we live our lives right now. I'll tell you a quick story. When I had my second baby, I had her at home. So I was so blessed to have the baby across the hall in her nursery in the tub. And then I walked into this is my office bedroom. I walked into my bedroom and got to get in my bed. And that was all I had to do. It was the most calm, peaceful postpartum experience ever. And I stayed in bed for the better part of a week. I was supposed to do 2 weeks, but I only did a week. So anyway, when I got in my car and I drove for the first time, I was on like newborn speed. I was on the speed of nature. Okay, I was on the real speed of the way that we are meant to live. And when I got in my car and started driving, I could feel the stress hormones going up in my body. Now, I'm driving down like slow country roads where there are no other cars. I'm a great driver. I don't have any driving anxiety, but I could just feel the stress hormones going up because we're moving literally at such a fast speed that our senses are taking in so much information faster than we were ever meant to. Never in history did we travel at 30, 40, maybe we traveled 30 on a really fast horse, but 50, 60, 70, 90 miles an hour. Never in our lives were our bodies meant to take in information at that speed. Okay, so just driving alone seems like no big deal. Huge stressor on the body. Lots of adrenaline required to drive. And then we add on the constant ping of our cell phones and the social media and the keeping up with the Joneses and the activities and the 40-hour week job plus more plus the kids, right? We know. I'm beating a dead horse here, but the speed at which we live is unprecedented. Dare I use that word? So these are all contributing physically to anxiety, okay? So we know the body is up against a mountain already before we start throwing in emotional and spiritual triggers here. So I'm going to come back. No, I'm going to give you some strategies for addressing the physical aspects of anxiety. So, number one of the most important things is the heavy metal detox smoothie from Medical Medium. So, that smoothie has wild blueberries, barley grass juice powder, spirulina, cilantro, and dulse in it. And it is the safest and most effective way to pull heavy metals out of the body and to pull them out of the brain. So, this is a smoothie that you can drink every single day. You can drink it twice a day. You can give it to your kids. You can drink it when you're pregnant. It's super safe and it's super effective. And this was a really important part of my healing of anxiety and adrenal fatigue. So this is a key thing. So if you can only like, I'm going to throw a lot of information at you guys today, but I'm going to highlight some of the more important, more effective ones. And at the end, I'm going to give you a minute to kind of think about what is the one or two things that you want to focus on. Because when we're anxious, we don't need more things to do. We need to get honed in on what's really going to move the needle for us. So I would say this heavy metal detox smoothie is a critical step that if you're dealing with um, any kind of anxiety, I would highly recommend bringing this in. Bring it in gradually. It's strong. Start with a small amount of the powders, or if like even just fruit is a new thing for you, just start with the base of the fruit and then slowly add in the powders and the detox ingredients. And you can just Google this heavy metal detox smoothie, and you'll find the recipe online from Medical Medium. Hydration is really key. If we're not hydrated, those minerals and things cannot get to the brain to build the neurotransmitters we need to feel calm and soothed and relaxed. So, hydration is also a critical one. Lemon water is fantastic for this because you're going to be giving yourself some of those minerals to rebuild those neurotransmitters. Celery juice is also fantastic, is loaded with minerals, and it also helps to pull out heavy metals. You also want to think about snacking or eating every 90 minutes to 2 hours. So most people who have anxiety have a pretty high level of adrenal fatigue. So making sure that your adrenals are getting glucose, mineral salts, and potassium every 2 hours is really important for maintaining, excuse me, even blood sugar and steady, balanced stress hormone levels. Um, And glucose, sufficient glucose is also important. So making sure you're getting loads of fruit in your diet. You cannot overdose on fruit. There's an awesome account called Chris Beat Cancer online. He has several books and recipe books and things, but he healed stage 4, I'm pretty sure, colon cancer, without any chemotherapy or radiation or anything. He did have surgery, but he's dedicated his life to teaching people how to heal, prevent and heal cancer. And he put up a meme the other day, and it was an empty hospital ward, and it said the ate too much fruit unit. So yeah, you can't eat too much fruit. There's no such thing as too much fruit. Fruit is the meant to be our primary food as humans. If you look at our anatomy, our fingers, our teeth, our livers, the length of our digestive tract, animals that have similar digestive tracts as us and anatomically, they eat fruit. They're frugivores. So we need boatloads of fruit to heal anxiety and get enough glucose to the brain and the adrenals to keep all those neurotransmitter and hormone levels balanced. Okay, I'm gonna throw a few key foods at you. I will send a more for those of you who are getting the who signed up for this watching, I'm gonna send you a list of this in the email with the replay. But wild blueberries are key. Celery juice, phenomenal. Apples and bananas, it's absolutely true. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. An apple a day helps to keep anxiety away. Cherries are a number one food because they are a natural supporter of our neurotransmitters. Plums have a really bioavailable magnesium in them that's helpful for anxiety. Potatoes and sweet potatoes, avocados. phenomenal for helping to regulate the nervous system and the adrenals. So those would be some foods that I would be focusing on getting in every day if you're dealing with anxiety. And then leafy greens. Leafy greens are also going to be a really potent source, important source of those minerals as well. I mentioned lemon water. Coconut water is also wonderful because it's going to give you a lot more electrolytes than just drinking plain water. So coconut water is also wonderful. Okay, I'm going to hit a couple of supplements and a couple of herbs. So the thing about anxiety that I mentioned at the beginning is that no two people have the same anxiety. So when it comes to supplements, it's a little bit of a game of experimentation because you have to kind of feel into what herb matches for you, what supplements match for you. But I would say magnesium is absolutely a number one. I think everyone should be taking magnesium. I take 2 or 3 capsules most days. If you have anxiety, you should absolutely be taking magnesium. Glycinate is my top pick, and also magnesium threonate can be really helpful. Magnesium threonate has a more direct pathway to the brain. Um, things like GABA can be also very helpful. They help to calm the central nervous system down. I enjoy a GABA before bed sometimes. I'm just like, ooh, that feels so calming. It's a precursor to some of your calming hormones in the brain, to serotonin. Some herbs to try would be passion flower, hops, lemon balm, ashwagandha. Those are probably my top four that I would start people trying. You can do these in tea form or tincture form. I think passion flower and hops and ashwagandha they're not my favorite flavors, so those I would probably do in more of a tincture or a capsule. Lemon balm is wonderful. Um, Sorry. Okay, lemon balm is wonderful. Like number one herb for anxiety. So you can get that in a glycerin tincture form, or you can um also do it as a tea. It's wonderful as a tea. It's great for kids. It's safe for pregnant women. One of the most important healing herbs there is. If you can grow yourself some lemon balm, get yourself a plant in the spring for those of us in the northern hemisphere that are absolutely snowed in right now. It grows like a weed, and you can just pick your own fresh lemon balm. You literally just put it in the ground in the spring. It will grow. It will come back every year. It's amazing to have, or put it in a pot. Um, okay, so that's kind of some supplements. Again, this has to be highly individualized and there's a bit of experimentation here, but these supplements can be really, really effective when you find the right combination. I could do a whole hour talk on just the supplements, right? But I'm going to just giving you guys an overview here, and then I will give you some things to focus on as we get to the end of this talk. Okay, so we have our physical cause of anxiety, and the physical causes are the foundation because we've got to have the adrenals on board, healed to the best of our ability. We've got to have the nutrients available to build the neurotransmitters. We've got to have sufficient glucose to fuel the brain and the body. So the food is the foundation. For some people, the food is enough. That's all they need. For others, we've got to go into the emotional and spiritual aspects. So, especially if you're someone who's been doing the medical medium protocols for a long time, and you've hit a plateau or you're struggling to make progress, um, going into the energetic aspects of this can be extremely helpful. And these techniques have been super, super helpful for me. I also want to say that, little tangent, but super important. There is nothing wrong with medication for anxiety as well, because uh, in order to heal anxiety, you've got to find a grounded nervous system. And so if you need that support as a tool to get you grounded enough to be able to do the food protocols, to be able to do the emotional work, then that is a necessary step. So obviously we want to work with natural methods as much as possible, but I have lots of clients who need pharmaceutical medication, And the goal being that we are weaning them down off of it safely with the supervision of their prescribing practitioner, right? Okay. So, from an emotional perspective, we have conscious and subconscious triggers for anxiety. And on the spiritual level, we have unconscious triggers for anxiety, which are sometimes the most interesting, but the hardest to get to. So, we're going to start with the emotional and the conscious triggers. So, from an emotional perspective, our day-to-day imbalances and misalignments, these are energies being fed into our nervous system, and our nervous system is getting activated and saying, hey, this doesn't feel good. This isn't right. Heads up. Like it's sounding the alarm bells, right? So we have our day-to-day imbalances and misalignments. And that could mean we are going to a job that's soul-sucking, that's making us anxious. It could mean we are in a relationship that is not supportive or it's conditional, right? It could mean we are living in a household with other people who are very dysregulating and that are not healthy for our emotional state. Um, it could mean any number of things, right? We're off track somewhere. So our nervous system communicates to us in many ways. One way through anxiety when we're focused, we're tunneled in the wrong direction. Your nervous system is going, you're swimming upstream. You've got your blinders on. If you can just take your blinders off and look, you go, "Oh, that's where I need to go. That's the answer right there." Or if you would just stop swimming upstream and exhausting yourself and just like stay still and rest for a second and just start floating and letting the current take you, even though that feels terrifying, because what if there's a whirlpool or a waterfall or a crocodile or some danger on the other side, right? Especially if we're in like a hypervigilance anxiety, um, or there's trauma under that anxiety. Like anxiety is one way that the brilliant computer system of your nervous system is telling you you're out of alignment, you're off track. And so if we can start to tune into that anxiety and be like, okay, anxiety, you're no longer a thing that I need to bury or run from or band-aid. We gotta lean into the anxiety and allow it to be a messenger, allow it to be a communication to our nervous system. And that can be an absolutely terrifying thing to do if you've been running from anxiety for a very long time. Terrifying. I had a real big anxiety activation today as I'm going through a divorce and negotiating custody of a 3-year-old and money and all this shit that right? It's so difficult. And so I sat down and I was like, okay, body, I feel you. I feel your heart rate is up. I feel this ball of tension, this web of tension in my abdomen and my heart. I feel the complete lack of patience for my children right now. I feel the tension in my head. I feel the fear that's underneath this anxiety. I feel the terror around setting boundaries and the fear of retaliation. I feel the parts of me that just want to placate and keep the peace, and I'm not letting them get in the driver's seat. I am feeling all of this. So feeling, naming, listening to the stories, leaning into the parts, this is a whole somatic healing process that I work with people. But my point in this story being that if we can go back to thinking of anxiety as a messenger and that it's trying to tell us something and that it's there to help us. What if anxiety was there to help us and not to punish us and make us miserable? So, starting to shift your mindset around anxiety and also shifting our mindset around all the difficult things that happen in our lives, right? If we can start to feel like we are not victims of our circumstances. And sometimes we are victims. There are horrible people and horrible energies on earth that do horrible things. But when we are truly not a victim, feeling empowered to be able to say, I have the power to change the way I'm perceiving this situation. So for me, in the situation of divorce battle, I'm just going to call it, it's showing me where I am afraid to hold my boundaries. It's showing me where there's deep rooted fear inside of me around retaliation. And I have to be like, is this mine? Is this from some past trauma? Is this deeper? We're going to get into that deeper stuff. I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but just coming through this way. Like, why am I afraid to have someone else be upset and angry with me? So like, what am I afraid of? Losing my kid, losing the, the financial aspects of this situation. What am I really afraid of? So leaning into that anxiety, show me my blind spots, show me what you're trying to tell me, show me what you're trying to protect me from, show me where I'm not seeing this from a higher perspective. And doing all of this exploration from a place of compassion and just explorative energy. So, journaling can be really powerful to explore these conscious day-to-day imbalances. If you go to work and every morning you wake up and you're like, I don't want to go, or you're driving there and you have this pit of anxiety in your stomach, your body's telling you something about that place. And it's not that there's something wrong with you. So, I will say again that the the people in my practice who experience the most anxiety are empaths, healers, might not know you're a healer yet, sensitives, intuitives, right? That whole arena of people. So it's telling you something. So we have our conscious day to day. It's also telling us where we are pushing, forcing, trying to make things happen rather than allowing things. And now sometimes we have to push and force ourselves because we have to survive and we have to go to that job we hate because we have to pay the bills and put food on the table. But we can start to connect into it and through that connection to the body, we can start to find a new way because when we get underneath the anxiety and underneath the fears, then we can connect to the intuition. But when the anxiety and the fears and the have tos and the shoulds and the pushings and the forcings are running the show, we can't hear our intuition. So if we can lean into it and go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and finally get to that little intuitive insight, that little voice, that little whisper that's like, hey, there's something else for you. Or hey, like it's really time to start using your training in Reiki or using your gifts or working with children or whatever your thing is, right? Like it's time to finally do that. And that requires a leap of faith. And taking a leap of faith when you're in a place of anxiety can be a very hard thing to do. So the first step is getting back to that intuitive voice. Um, okay, so we have this conscious day-to-day misalignment stuff, right? Then we have on a subconscious level, this can be triggering emotional anxiety. So the emotional stuff are things that have happened in our lifetime that we are aware of or unaware of, but it's happened in our lifespan from birth or from conception, even because we can have womb trauma, right? From conception to this day, right here and now. Things that have happened to us are the emotional root causes of anxiety. So that's the conscious stuff. On a subconscious level, we have trauma, unprocessed wounds from the past. I would call that open loops. So things that have happened to us that we remember or we don't remember, they can be we can be aware of those memories or they can be repressed memories. And the interesting thing that happens when you start to really nourish your body with the foods, you start with the foundations of food and you start to get a more calm nervous system and you start to build up those neurotransmitters in your brain and your adrenals start to become more stable and your energy starts to become more stable, then your subconscious goes, ooh, now you're ready. Now you can handle this. So, about 9 months into my healing journey with medical medium, I uncovered repressed trauma from my childhood. And this repressed trauma had started dysregulating me around age 6 or 7, and it turned me to food as a coping mechanism. So I started overeating around I think around age 7, and I started to gain weight. And so I was a chubby kid my whole life until I was about 5, so 10 about for about 10 years, 9 years. I was a chubby kid because I was constantly looking to food to regulate my nervous system because I had this repressed trauma that my body was holding. The body holds the subconscious. We think the subconscious is like out there somewhere or it's like deep inside of our psyche. It's in the body. The subconscious is in the body. The cells hold the memory of trauma. So my cells were in this trauma. All they're bathing in this trauma 24/7 all the time. And I had no idea. Maybe I had like a 1% idea. But it was repressed until I was, I think, 36 or 37. So this was 5 or 6 years ago, this came up for me. So, but I didn't have the nervous system capacity or the support to process it until that point in my life. So it's repressed for 30 years, driving emotional eating habits, and then into my 20s, driving alcohol, a lot of binge drinking and habits like that. So So it was driving all of this behavior that I didn't know where it was coming from. So when I finally uncovered this trauma, because I got my body in a stable enough, safe enough space, then I was able to heal that trauma. And I would say it's 98% healed. Like it doesn't plague me, and it's not a baseline driver for overeating anymore for me. And I see that reflected in my weight as well. So that overeating really went away when that I used to eat until I was uncomfortably full, till I felt sick because I'd rather feel physically sick and have a stomach ache than feel what was underneath that. So this is a process. This is a slow, steady, one step at a time process. Nobody wants to uncover repressed trauma. We never go looking for it. We never go knocking on the door. It's something that happens naturally when you are ready and you can handle it. And it was, when that kind of thing comes up, I was like, fuck, I do not want this. I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to go there. I don't want to remember this. But as I got through it, now I'm so grateful that it came up because I feel so much more free and my nervous system is completely different than it was 6 years ago. Completely different. So when we have unprocessed trauma, so trauma is when something happens, it's not what happens to you. It's how you process it, or rather how you don't process it. So something that can be very traumatic for one person, not a trauma at all for another, because they had the resources and tools to do with it. And this is oftentimes why things that happen to us early in life are more traumatic because we don't have the resources and tools, we don't have the fully developed brain, and we may not have had the caretakers to help us work through it at the time. So when we have an activation of the nervous system from something little or something really big and scary, like a car accident or a near-death experience, nervous system activated, information comes into the computer. The computer says fight, flight, freeze, whatever the response is, right? And then we're supposed to feel that activation, take action to get ourselves safe, feel the emotions, process the emotions, and release it emotionally and physically. We have to physically and emotionally release the activation, and then that loop is complete and we are done. And then, so it's not trauma, it's just an activation in a closed loop. What happens when we experience trauma that's too much, too fast, too big that we can't handle? Trauma happens and the body and it gets shoved down somewhere because we didn't feel it, process it, release it emotionally and physically. So that trauma gets stuck in the body. And then we have this open loop, right? So that trauma loop, it's open, it's open, it's open. It's like a skipping record. I may be dating myself, right? But I I remember skipping records when I was a kid. It's like da 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 da. da 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 da, and you're like, turn that off, it's driving me crazy, right? And it can skip forever. So that record can skip your whole life. Activation, 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 activation. And that is not a way to live, right? So we give ourselves the basis of healing foods, and then we start to get support and we work through. I use somatic healing for trauma healing. I also use energy healing. I use inner child healing. I use actually a lot of different techniques. Um, we can start to close those loops. We can go into those places that were too big, too fast, that were unsafe, and we can start to close those loops. And when we close those loops, the nervous system, your baseline might be up here, and you come down here. And you don't even know your real baseline is all the way down here. So when I healed that repressed trauma from my childhood, I did not know I could feel that calm. I did not know how anxious I was. I did not know how much I was self-medicating with food all the time because that was just my baseline. That's how I thought everybody felt. That's how I thought life was. Right? So we don't even know how high our nervous system is until we start to release the things that are chronically activating it. Hold on, gotta plug in my computer. Okay, so that's stuff on the subconscious level. Things that happen to us that we are aware of, that we know is traumatizing, or things that are repressed that we don't even realize are in there. And oh, my slipper fell off. Okay, we're back. All right. So I use somatic healing. Counseling and therapy is very helpful for this, support from family and friends, and slowing down to feel, right? Tuning into those activations and finding what's underneath. So going in with just compassion and curiosity to see what's my nervous system trying to tell me. And there can be a lot of weeds in there. There can be a lot to work through. And this is why we don't do trauma healing alone. I don't think anyone recommends doing trauma healing alone. Trauma healing needs to be done with other safe nervous systems. So that can be done virtually. Your nervous systems connect through the computer. It can be done in person. It can be done in groups. This is why I host retreats, because the amount of somatic healing work, the physiological changes in the body that happen when we do this in a group is monumental. It could take you 6 months, a year, years of therapy versus 5 days in person together. You can move the needle that much when you bring nervous systems together with a similar intention. The amount that that changes is powerful. And this is why I host retreats, because I get it too. It's medicine for me too. Okay, so that's the emotional, conscious and subconscious levels of where anxiety comes from. The last layer we have, right? So we've got the physical, we have the conscious anxiety, which is what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. We have the subconscious anxiety, which are things that happened in our past, repressed or aware. And then on the highest level, we have our spiritual anxiety. Dare I call it that? Spiritual anxiety. So sometimes we bring things into this life. We are not a blank slate when we come in. If you know anything about astrology, you know we are not a blank slate when we come into this life. So we come in with these unconscious wounds that have nothing to do with any of the choices we made, with any of the choices the caregivers around us made. They have nothing to do with this lifetime. They are in our field, they're in our soul. And actually, Anthony talks about this too. We can come in with these soul fractures or wounds. And so we come in with anxiety as a thing to heal, as part of our soul contract, as part of our life lessons. It's not something you fucked up or did wrong. You brought this in. You were like, oh, sign me up for the anxiety lesson. Yeah. And then sign me up for the money lesson. And then sign me up for the loss and grief lesson. Like, we sign up for these lessons, and different lessons come at different times, and they all overlap and they're all intertwined. But everybody knows that person who's just like never struggled with money, and they've just like always money's always been easy, but they deal with terrible anxiety, or they've lost a bunch of loved ones, or they've suffered really bad abuse or something, right? Or on the other end, you know, someone who has like always been like a really good person, and they they haven't had a lot of trauma or something, but they struggle with like self-worth. And you're like, where like self-worth, like they never feel like they're good enough, or and it's not because of how they're raised, like it's just in them, right? So these are your soul contracts, these are your life lessons. Um so these often come in from past lives. And if we look at past lives from a quantum perspective, time is not linear, so these past lives might all be happening, overlapping on top of each other. I don't really understand it, but I do understand that when I went into past life healing, this also radically changed my nervous system and what took it from, so we did the trauma healing, the repressed trauma healing took it from here to here, and then the soul level past parallel lives healing took it from here to here. And it was another level of I did not know I could feel this calm. I didn't know what this calm was. I don't remember in my adult life ever feeling that calm. So this is also really powerful work. And you can do a lot of this on your own, but again, also like nervous systems together heal nervous systems. So, um, I learned about unconscious wounds through the lens of astrology on a retreat in Costa Rica in 2021. And that's where I started using, that's around when I started using astrology, human design, past life readings, and those kinds of things to help heal root causes of soul level anxiety. And a lot of times it's not necessarily like you're not changing past lives or parallel lives, right? So, but it's about changing the cellular memory, and it's about changing how you're holding that here and now, right? So there's some form of trauma healing that happens when you go into that stuff that your soul carries into this lifetime. Another thing that happens on a spiritual level is when we are disconnected from our intuition. It's very scary to feel alone and isolated on this crazy ass fucked up planet. It's very scary. So if you don't have good people and nervous system support around you, and if you don't have a connection to a higher power, this place is terrifying. Because we all know horrible things happen, right? We got ice in Minnesota right now, horrible, horrible things, right? War, rape, murder, like it's insane. So if we don't have a connection to our higher power, helping us understand why we're here, that we have a purpose here, that we are here. If you're listening to this, you're a light worker. Yeah, I'm telling you, you are. You have a purpose. And if you're not living that purpose, life is not going to feel good. Your nervous system's going to be yelling at you. You're off track. You're off track, right? Like you've got to be reconnecting to your soul purpose, connecting to your intuition, taking the time to develop that muscle. Intuition is a muscle. It's not a gift. Everybody has it. We all have different things we're better at. Some of us are runners, some of us are swimmers, some of us are strength, right? We all have different strengths within our intuition, but we all have it. And developing it is extremely, extremely powerful, and working with it. So my intuitive abilities are innate, but I've also practiced them a boatload. All the time I'm asking and praying for my intuition to come in more loud and clear. Show me, show me, show me, tell me, tell me, tell me. I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All the time. Show me the way. Put my hands up, surrender. Show me what I'm supposed to be doing. Because the more we surrender to our calling, to where our soul is guiding us, even when it doesn't make sense, even when it's crazy, even when it's stupid, even when it feels like the biggest risk, the more we do that, the more miracles we get. And the more we get to serve our soul purpose and our mission, and the more we get to help change the frequency of this crazy ass planet. Because that's why you're here. If you're listening to this, that's why you're here. And that's why you're more sensitive to the toxins. And that's why you're more sensitive to the foods. And that's why you're more sensitive to the anxiety and the energies of other people. because you have to be that sensitive to change frequencies, to shift timelines, to move the needle of the collective consciousness. You can't be a dummy, like rolling around eating junk food and blaming other people for your problems. That's not how we change this earth. That's not how we move into new earth energy. We do it through healing ourselves and then being able to share that frequency. And so it doesn't mean you have to get on Instagram and be a spiritual teacher or like, you know, a coach or anything. It doesn't, you don't have to do that to be a light worker. We all have our own unique callings and how we are light workers. Um, but you have a calling. And the more you follow that, the more you're allowing your intuition to guide you and your inner authority. This is where human design comes in because we all have a unique inner authority. The more we are following that, the more we're going to feel calm and grounded because we're in the flow. We're in the cosmic flow. We're in alignment with our soul. We're in alignment with our soul mission. We're doing our work and we're changing the frequency of the planet. And there's nothing more important than that. So healing yourself is about healing this world. No joke. I tell my clients all the time, this isn't about you. This is not about you. This is about changing the frequency of the planet. And we need one person at a time to do that in order for the collective to change that. Because healed people heal people and traumatized people traumatize people. So we've got to move through this stuff so we can bring more people into regulated nervous systems, so we can bring regulated nervous systems into our lawmakers and our law enforcement and our government and our hospitals, and we need regulated nervous systems in those places so we can start changing the structures of these big powers that be. We need people regulated enough to go into those systems. So you might be a teacher or a secretary or a nurse or a the bus driver or whatever, and you have an important role in changing the frequency of the people around you because healed nervous systems heal nervous systems, right? We are all reflecting and magnifying each other's nervous systems. So when your nervous system is screaming anxiety at you, we've got to look at all of these levels to heal and to serve. So I'm going to leave you with, you're going to write down 3 goals for yourself. One is a food goal. What is one practice you can commit to on a daily basis that's going to help regulate your nervous system or bring more minerals in for neurotransmitters or pull some toxins out, right? So that could be the heavy metal detox smoothie, it could be lemon water, it could be an adrenal snack in the afternoon when you know you start to crash. It could be naps. That's not a food, but that's a physical thing, right? It could be getting yourself in bed on time. It could be taking an apple with you in the morning and making sure you eat that apple before you go to bed. It could be bringing coconut water in once a day, right? Think about one, pick one. If you're feeling really gusto, pick two, but pick one or maybe two because you don't want to overwhelm the system because then we go into freeze or whatever and we can't do it. So pick one food thing. Maybe pick a food or an herb or a supplement. So maybe you're picking one food and one herb to experiment with. Like just start squirting lemon balm. You can take 4 droppers of lemon balm 3, 4 times a day. Um, okay, what are the most transformative foods? I made a list of those earlier in the web in the discussion. Go to my website, rachelpellison.com, go to the events and sign up for this workshop, and then you're going to get the email that has all of that in it. Very good question. I do lemon water smoothies already. The celery all the time is too much money. That's okay. Then just do what you can. One thing, right? One thing. Um, we don't have to do it all. And I think that's a huge mistake. We overwhelm our nervous system when we think we have to do everything. It's okay if you miss the beginning part. Yeah, we have to just do one thing at a time that starts to move the needle. And then the more you move the needle, the more capacity you have to do more things. But it's one thing at a time. And then from an emotional perspective, I want you to go through your day. and pay attention to where your energy is getting sucked, where your anxiety starts to kick up. Okay, I've recently scaled back at my other business, my horse thing, because it was creating a lot of anxiety and it was becoming a huge energy suck for me. And I did not want to do that. In my brain saying you have to keep doing that other business because how are you going to make enough money without that? That business brought in $40,000 last year or something. How am I going to cover that 40 grand? I don't fucking know. But I know when I drive there, my nervous system gets wrecked and I'm in a horrible mood when I'm there and it sucks me dry. So I'm listening to my nervous system, even though I'm freaked out and I don't know what I'm gonna do. But that's why I'm here doing this call, right? Because I'm walking through this just like everybody else. Okay, so I want you, yes, people are gonna suck your energy, and yes, they can be hard to get away from, but that's where we have to start making those tough choices and setting boundaries. And people who suck our energy don't like it when we set boundaries and we stop letting them suck our energy. So, and again, it's one step at a time, right? So, um, so it's one step. So you pick one thing, right? We can't drop we can't change our whole diet. We can't drop our whole jobs and careers and relationships and everything, right? It's one thing. So just pay attention as you go through your day. What's one place where your energy is getting sucked that you can either set a boundary, go to less, scale back on, um, right? Just pick one thing in your day to day that you can start to shift that's going to save more sacred energy for yourself. Okay. And then the third thing, learn about your astrology or your human design. Or read up on past parallel lives. Like lean into the spiritual aspects of this too. Medical Medium has tons of stuff on these on if you look up anxiety, um he's got good information in there. Uh I talk about this stuff a lot. Book a session with me to do a past life Akashic record healing. Um, learn about intuition. Go listen to some meditations on intuition. Like pick something to lean into the spiritual, to nourish your spiritual body. Because when you nourish your spiritual body, it's going to nourish your physical body. Um, if you wonder if your human design or your astrology is true or not, just observe because I keep learning more and more about my astrology, and the more I learn about it, the more I I come to understand it as I come to understand myself. So, um, getting in that flow of the spiritual, or just pray, say a prayer every night. Takes 2 seconds. It's free. Takes no time. Like those little things, like, show me the way. Where am I supposed to put my energy? Um, okay, so you have three things to focus on. One, food to nourish yourself, to nourish your nervous system. One, observation in your daily life of where your energy is getting sucked and where you can start to set a boundary or scale back from that to preserve some of your energy. Where's your nervous system telling you you're out of alignment? And then third is just get into some of the magic of the universe. Um, so that's your homework. If you want help with this, and again, nervous systems heal nervous systems. So this is where getting support comes in. I have my retreat in Puerto Rico, February 9th to the 13th. I have 2 spots left. So if you want to come, move 6 months to a year worth of energy in 5 days, let's do it. It's incredible. Every retreat I host is better than the last one. They blow me away. So reach out to me, or that's also on my website. And secondly, if you're like, can't travel right now, or that's not the thing for me, I have a 6 month healing package. It's where you work with me one-to-one for 6 months, and we do all of this. We do the physical, we work on your food protocol, we tweak those supplements to get your anxiety under control. We work on the emotional stuff. I support you in setting those boundaries and finding your flow. People experience the biggest miracles when they come into my 6 month package, moves across the country, new relationships. long needed divorces, like all kinds of things, blessings, so many blessings, pregnancies, like all kinds of crazy stuff happens when you hone in on this. And then we do the spiritual work too. And that's where you get my support through the readings and the energy healing and bringing the soul energy into the body. And what this translates to is feeling calm and clear and your life becoming so much more manageable and fun and clearing out all the weeds and the physical health symptoms. This is how you heal your body, and then that heals your emotional body, and then that heals your spiritual body. It goes in all directions, but yeah. So those are two options to work with me in person or virtually from anywhere in the world. And there's lots of other stuff. There's lots of other options too. So just reach out to me via my email form on my website or via DM on Instagram or Facebook, and I can help you figure out what the next right step is for you. So I hope you guys have your 3 steps. Does anyone have any questions before we wrap up? Um, I missed some comments here, but yeah, yes. Okay. Thank you guys for coming. You are so brave and amazing, and you are going to crush this anxiety. Well, no, we're not going to crush it. We're going to integrate it. We're going to make it, we're going to allow it to make us whole again. And yeah, I got your back on this. So let me know how things happen for you. If you want some accountability, email me your 3 steps that you're going to do. I would love to hear what you're working on. And let's go. All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone.